Okay, in this video, we're going to solve two-step equations, but this is a little different because these two-step equations have what's called rational coefficients. Rational coefficients are just coefficients that are fractions, like 1/2 x, 1/2 would be the rational coefficient, or 2/3 y, 2/3 would be the rational coefficient. So it's not too different from just solving regular two-step equations. It actually has difficulties as you might think. So let's go through a couple examples. So first of all, find the side that has the variable. So here's the left side of my equation. Has this 1/3 x. First thing I want to do is find my constant, so that -3. Add the opposite of the constant to both sides of the equation. Now, I've been saying in previous videos, if you don't recognize that this is plus a -3, you can always rewrite your minuses as plus a negative. And the opposite of -3 would be +3. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want my constant, I want to add something to it to make it 0 so it cancels. And then add the same value to the right side of your equation. So -3 plus 3 is 0, so that cancels. -6 plus 3 is -3, so that leaves me with 1/3 x equals -3. Okay, now previously, when we were solving just the two-step equations, we would divide by this coefficient, but I don't want to do that in this case because then I've got this scenario where I've got these complex fractions, 1/3 over 1/3 or -3 over 1/3, and that just tends to get really messy. So the way to get around that, to make all of your mathematics much easier, is when you have a fraction coefficient and you're down to, I have one term with my variable and it equals the constant on the other side of the equation, just multiply by the reciprocal of the coefficient of your variable. So the coefficient of x in this case is 1/3. The reciprocal of 1/3 is just 3 over 1. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 1. Now, why do I do that? Because I want to know the value of 1x. I want to multiply or divide so that when I do that, I get 1x. Well, what happens when I multiply 1/3 times 3 over 1? Remember that you multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator when you're doing fraction multiplication. So 3 times 1 is 3 over 1 times 3 is 3. So you get 3x. Multiply with the same thing. 3 over 1. You turn that into a fraction, but -3 times 3 is -9, and 1 times 1 is just 1. So I'm left with this. Well, this is just division. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1x is just x. So I get x, and -9 over 1 is just -9. Okay, so last thing I did, and I kind of already did this, was simplify your fractions. I did that right here. And then, before we can go on, gotta check your solution. So I'm going to take my original equation, 1/3 x minus 3. And I want to know if x is -9, then when I plug in -9 for x, do I end up equaling -6? So I'm going to plug in -9 here, and does that equal -6? Well, let's find out. Order of operations, 1/3 times -9, well, that's -3. And if you're like, no, that's not going to equal -6, well, this 3 is negative, and this 3 is negative, and if you combine them together, you do actually get -6. So in this case, yes, x is equal to -9. So again, the only change that I did was instead of dividing by your coefficient, I multiplied by the reciprocal. Let's look at a couple. All right, first thing I want to do, add the opposite of the constant to both sides on number 2. So -3/4 n plus 5 equals -1. The opposite of 5 is -5. So I'm going to add that to both sides. That becomes 0. And I'm left with, well, this is -1 plus -5 is -6 equals -3/4 n. Now, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of -3/4 n, but be careful, because the reciprocal of -3/4 n is -4/3. So we multiply by -4/3. And on the right side of my equation, I'm going to multiply by -4/3. Let's make that into a fraction by putting it over 1. And so now I've got some fractions that I can simplify. So let's multiply this out. -4 times -3, that's -12. Sorry, that's positive 12, so I've got a negative times a negative situation. And 3 times 4 is also 12. Let's multiply the right side out. Now, if you see this, you can do some cross-canceling. Remember when we did cross-canceling on our conversion factors? You turn this into one big problem. We've got 6 and 3. And 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. So you could turn this into an easier multiplication problem. -2 times -4 is +8. And 1 times 1 is 1. If you have no idea what I just did, just multiply straight across and then simplify. But this was simplifying first. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is simplify fractions. 12 over 12 is 1, so I have 1 n or just n. And 8 over 1 is 8. Alright, I took up a lot of room, so let's see if 8 checks out. I'll check it a different color so that way we can see it a little better. Alright, so -3/4 n plus 5, does that equal -1 when I plug in -8? So -3/4 times 8 plus 5, does it equal -1? Well, 3/4 times 8, 3 times 8 is 24, so you get -24 over 4, that's just division. -24 over 4 is -6 plus 5. Yeah, and you can see, I get -1 equals -1. So this solution works. It worked out. All right, let's look at another one. Ooh, this one's a little trickier. So I've got 1/7 x minus 1 equals 9/7. All right. What makes this one trickier is I've got this -1. And I've got it equal, there's a fraction over here. So I'm actually going to rewrite this. 1/7 x. And I'm going to add the opposite of -1, which is +1. But that's not going to help me any. I'm going to rewrite this as a fraction that's still equal to 1. But since I'm going to be subtracting or adding it to this 9/7, I want it to have a denominator of 7. So if that's the case, 7/7 has a denominator of 7, and it's still equal to 1. So that makes life a lot easier. So now I can add the opposite of this -7/7 to both sides. Cancel out. Plus 7 over 7. Now be careful, because remember we keep the same denominator of 7 and just add your numerator when you do a fraction addition. So that would be 9 plus 7 is 16. Alright, so now I'm down to part 2. It took a couple extra steps, but when you're working with fractions, you need to add or subtract. Make sure that you have common denominators. Alright, next thing I want to do. Take that coefficient, multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1/7 is 7 over 1. And this actually works out really nice, because again, if you turn this into one big problem, you got some cross-canceling happening. So x equals 16 times 1 is 16 over 1. This would be 7 over 7. Simplify those fractions. 7/7 x, which is bx, and 16 over 1 is just 16. And let's check and make sure. See if this works. So take your original problem. Let's see. 1/7. Let's plug in 16 minus. Now, we're going to do some subtracting, so let's change that minus 1 into 7/7 again. Make our lives easier. 1/7 times 16 is just 16 over 7. Minus 7 over 7. Does that equal 9 over 7? Well, again, you want to keep your denominator 7 and just subtract your numerator. 16 minus 7 is 9. So yeah, it works out. Alright, so 16 is your solution there. Again, can't be afraid of fractions. We do a lot of those in here. Let's look at a couple more examples and then we'll be done. Alright, this one's a little easier. So, 2/5 m minus, or plus 3 equals 11. Add the opposite of your constant. So, add negative 3 to both sides. This cancels out my constant on my left side. On my right side, 11 plus negative 3 is 8. I'm left with 2/5 m equals 8. Multiply by that reciprocal of 2/5, which is 5/2 on both sides. Okay, so 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 5 is 10, so 10 over 10m equals 8 times 5 is 40. 1 times 2 is 2. Let's do some simplifying. This becomes 1m or just m. 40 divided by 2 is 20. Alright, so let's see if that works. Let's check this over here. 2/5 m plus 3 equals 11. If we plug in 20, does that equal 11? So we can just do some multiplication here. 2 times 20 is 40. This plus 3 is that 11. Well, this is just division. 40 divided by 5 is 8. And you can see it's going to work out just fine. 11 equals 11. So m equals 20 is in fact your solution. Alright, last one. And then I can go to bed because it's 11:05 p.m. and I've been working on these videos all night. So, 2. Now, this one, you're going to use the same process, just we have our solution, or we've got one constant on the left and then our problems on the right. Don't let that scare you. You're going to do the same thing. So, we'll look at the right side. Add the opposite of negative 6 to both sides, which is positive 6. So 2 plus 6 is 8, and that equals negative 2/7x. This cancels. Negative 6 plus 6 becomes 0. Be careful here. Negative 2/7, its reciprocal is negative 7/2. Apply that on both sides of your equation. Alright, so let's do this. Negative 7 times 8 is negative 56. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14. 7 times 2 is 14. Let's simplify. Alright, negative 56 divided by 2. That's a negative. 56 divided by 2. Alright, let me think about this. 28. Divide that in half. 14 divided by 14 is 1x, or just x. So, the very last thing we need to do, let's check if x is 28. Can we plug that into this equation and make it equal to 2? So 2 equals negative 2 over 7 times, don't get that negative, 8 minus 6, 2, let's see, does that equal, well, negative 2 times negative 28 is positive 56. It's just division, 56 divided by 7. So that's 8. 8 minus 6. Oh, you see it works out. There you go. So how to solve with those rational coefficients, show your work vertically, and how to check.